afternoon, folks. Welcome back to Bandido Swings. The Bandido was up, getting another practice in, folks. You know, I normally practice. I do all of my tennis hits up in Belfast. That's what I do at the moment, anyway. And the place where I normally practice is called the Ozone in Ormeau Park. And of course, folks, what is happening in Ormeau Park at the moment? Every year, it comes around June at this time, and the musicians have to come into Ormeau Park. They have to have their big stage set up. They need to strut their stuff out on stage. And this means all of us tennis folk don't really get to play tennis for the next month. So, you know, the Bandido was very lucky. This is being shot. This video's being shot in early June. The Bandido's very lucky to actually get a court. Fucking hell, this road is really choppy. Let's see if I can get this camera to sit right. But you know, lucky to get a court. I don't know if the Bandido's going to be out here swinging on the court for the next month because of the musicians. What is it called? Belsonic? Is that the name of the show? Anyway, who cares what the name of the show is? As far as the Bandido's concerned, it means no tennis for him for the next few months. Or for the next month anyway, at least. Maybe I'll be able to sneak a court if I talk to the right people. Who knows? But anyway, back out on court today, folks. Again, we've got quite a bit of footage here. I think we've got at least maybe two service games, 2 return games, something like that. So there's plenty of footage to get into, and I actually think I've got more than that. But I'm going to be conservative. I don't want to get anybody's hopes and expectations up. So we've got a few service games, a few return games. You know, folks, after last week, you know, for those of you who saw last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? I can't remember. I always get my weeks mixed up. Oh well. You know, the last time we released a Bandido Swings, I was saying about how I was making my life too complicated out on court. I was trying to do too many things at once. Well, holy fuck, today, folks, the Bandido simplified things. In fact, the Bandido went out onto court with a mindset. He brought a mindset out onto court. We're going to talk all about this after I show you the footage. So look, enough rambling from me. I'm going to show you what it is that I picked up from today's practice. Interesting stuff. The Bandido's a happy man. But enough rambling from the Bandido. I'm going to leave you with the footage. You make of it what you wish. We're going to come back once it's all been digested and talk all about it.
control here.
Well, but Jesus, there you have it, folks. There's all the footage this week. You know, let's get straight into this. Let's not muck around. What was it that I was saying in our little introduction about a mindset? The Bandido went out onto court today with a mindset. What was my mindset? Well, look, as I said in our introduction, the last time I was out on court, a few weeks ago, I was complicating my life too much. I was trying to do too many things with the serve. I was trying to accomplish too many goals at once. So today, learning from his previous experience, the Bandido thought, okay, so if we tried to complicate things a little too much the last day, how about we simplify it? And this is where the mindset comes in. I decided today, folks, out on court, I was going to play super aggressively. So anytime there was a short ball, the Bandido was on it. Like a dung beetle on shite. He was on it. And it even applied to the serve as well. So I decided that when I was throwing the ball up on the ball toss, I decided I was only going to focus on one thing. You know, all this idea of, try to get the arm vertical. You know, what about the backswing? Am I storing enough potential energy? Am I moving through the movement of the serve in the way that I should with fluidity? What about, am I going to do topspin flat? All of this stuff. I decided to fuck all that and literally focus on one thing. This fucking tit up ahead. He doesn't know what lane he wants to be in, and the Bandido missed his light change. But we're in no rush, folks. Patience. Doesn't mean he's not a dipshit. But anyway, I decided to focus on one thing, and that was to attack the ball today. It didn't matter whether I was throwing the ball up for the ball toss, I was going to attack the ball. Whether it was a ground stroke, I was going to attack the ball. A volley, I'm going to attack the ball today. That was my mindset going out onto court. It was an all-out attack. Total aggression. Because I wanted to feel what it was like. On the serve, on the return, on the ground strokes, on the volleys. I wanted to play aggressively today. That was my sole purpose. And I got myself into that mindset. You know that mindset where you basically say to yourself, I am going to swing loosely. Swing loosely, and I actually don't care where the ball goes. That was the mindset I took. And you know, if you listen to the likes of Roger Federer, even Rory McIlroy, the golfer, you'll hear both of them utter something similar. When they go out to practice, what they don't want to be is tense and loose and overthinking things to the point where they are paralyzed. They don't exactly know what to do. Information overload, we could say. And they're sort of paralyzed. No clear sense of direction. No clear sense or clear focus. But today, I was focused. I had a clear sense of direction because I simplified things. And what was this simplification? It was simply to attack the ball. So let's go down through this briefly. What do I mean attack the ball? I've sort of said it already. Let's talk about the serve firstly. So all these other things I've been talking about on previous episodes, for this week's hit, now I'm not saying I'm always going to do this, but just for this week's hit, I wanted to attack the ball toss. What do I mean by that? Well, when I threw the ball up, I wanted to follow the ball right to the top, and as soon as the ball hit the peak, I was right on it. You know, like that dung beetle on shite? That was me. So I wasn't sort of, throwing the ball up and, very sort of sloppily bringing the racket back, lethargic, no sense of urgency. Not doing that today, folks. My focus was on the serve. Fuck the vertical toss arm and all the rest of it. Just for this week. I wanted to get a feel this week. I wanted to get a feel of going after the ball. Not recklessly, but with a sense of freedom. You know when you just attack something? You just attack it, and you're not worried about the mistake that is potentially going to come. I wanted to go after the ball with aggression, and that started with the serve. So when I was throwing up the ball on the ball toss, I followed that ball up, and as soon as I determined that ball was at the top of the toss, I was on it. And I wasn't pussyfooting around. I wasn't trying to, just chip it in. I was throwing myself after that ball, aggressively pursuing it. And I even got a couple of aces today. You would have seen, folks. Holy fuck, the Bandido pulled a couple of aces out of his back pocket. And did those aces come because of some, technical, introducing something technical into the serve? No, it didn't. I haven't hit an ace in the last 3 practices. Not a single one. But I got 2 today. And it was down to this mindset of attacking the ball and aggression. And that's all I was focused on the serve today. Now look, I haven't actually looked back at the footage yet, but it felt good, folks. Now maybe that was just, it psychologically felt good because I didn't feel like I was trying to do too many things at once. I didn't feel as if I had my fingers in too many pies. Maybe there was just an alleviation. This sense of a release of perhaps tension, we could say, because I was getting, on the last hit, I was getting too stuck in the weeds. I think that was the term we used. I was lost in the weeds a little. This week there were no weeds. The weeds were gone. I didn't use weed killer. Of course, folks, for those of you who have seen one of our most recent mind streams, I don't like weed killer. Check out that most recent mind stream, folks. Forge your own path. We talk a little about this idiot that I saw out and about using weed killer. I didn't get rid of the weeds this week with weed killer. No, not at all. The Bandido isn't sloppy like that. I just avoided the weeds. That's all I did. I just didn't get myself stuck down there in the weeds, over-complicating things. So that was really, it's as simple as that this week, folks. Too complicated the last time. This week, simplifying things. And in this case, the only objective I had for the serve was to attack the ball. As soon as that ball was being released from my hand, I was tracking that thing. And once I determined that it was at the top of the toss, boom! I was in on it. I was on top of it. I wasn't bringing this lethargic attitude. There was a sense of urgency, aggression, attacking the ball. And this was good. I really enjoyed it, folks. I think I only had maybe only 2 double faults. I think I only had 2 double faults. And that was in, what, 45 minutes of match play? I mean, that's pretty good. 2 double faults, 2 aces. This is good stuff, folks. You know, and that was me really laying into the serve. I wasn't being cagey. Now, maybe it looked, because I don't hit the serve extremely quickly. I don't have a lot of pace to the serve, but I can assure you I was really going after that thing. So the fact that I only made 2 double faults, good stuff. But I was focused this week. My mind wasn't distracted by all these different components of the serve. Absolutely not. And here's the interesting thing. This aggression that I was applying to the serve, it extended to the rest of my game. In fact, let me tell you something interesting. You will see on the footage. Did you see the first few volleys that I hit? Did you see them? I went up to the net and I was so sort of keen to attack the ball that I actually fell a little out of balance. I went a little too hard on the aggression. And the first few volleys that I hit, I just dumped them into the net. Dumped them straight into the net because I was really, my objective today was to really attack that ball. And once I got a short ball, I wanted to get right on top of it and get right up to the net and try to rush my opponent. And you will have noticed those first few volleys were a mess. Ugly looking volleys. But that was because this aggression that I was trying to bring to the court today, the sense of urgency, this sole purpose of attacking the ball. Early on, the Bandido was, you know, particularly excitable, let's just say. He was really going after the ball. So I messed up a few volleys, but that's fine, folks. And you know, you would have noticed on the ground strokes too, super aggressive. I was really going after the backhand, really going after the forehand. You know, I was not holding back. I refused to move from the baseline. Didn't matter how deep the ball was from my opponent. I stayed on that baseline. And as soon as I felt like the ball dropped short, I was on it. Taking the ball early, taking the ball on the rise. That is what I wanted to do today. I really wanted to get after the ball. Because, you know, last week, you know, I reviewed last week's footage and it wasn't as bad as I thought. You know, it wasn't as bad as I thought. But, you know, definitely psychologically, from a field perspective, I definitely felt a little more out of sorts. Perhaps it didn't look that way, but that's how it felt. This week was different. I felt on it. Striking the ball really nicely from the back of the court. Sitting on the baseline, taking it early, taking the ball on the rise, and when I sniffed a short ball, I was taking it early, getting up to the net, and trying to punch the volley. Now look, folks, what did I say at the beginning? Bringing this sort of aggression, attacking the ball, swinging loosely, that's what I was doing. I was laying back and just swinging loosely. There was no tension. In fact, again, you would have seen a few forehands that I hit. I really just brought the racket back and swung freely. And sure, some of them went wide into the tram lines. Sometimes they went a wee bit long. No big deal. Folks, there's a good lesson in this, actually. You know, whether it's with the serve, you know, attacking the ball on the rise as the ball toss is reaching its pinnacle point and really getting after it. It doesn't matter whether it's a short ball, attacking it short in the court, with the volleys, really trying to step in and punch the volleys. Return of serve, again, really laying in, particularly on the backhand, folks. I really felt like I I really laid into some of those backhand returns. Give them really good spin, some really good punch in the shot. You know, there's a good lesson here, folks. The lesson being, when you go out to do something, let's say play a sport, or whatever it may be, you see, when you simplify things and you bring in just one sole focus for that particular activity that you're doing, as opposed to trying to complicate things, you bring in one thing that you really want to hone in on. For me today, it was aggression on court. It's kind of interesting because you see, whenever you're more focused, other things start to kind of click into place. You know, the things that I was trying to do last week, among this very complicated thought process that I had, I actually found that I was doing them almost effortlessly this week, subconsciously, you could say, without trying. Isn't that interesting, folks? You know, I was trying so hard last week to implement things. And the harder I tried, the more difficult it became. But this week, I was laser focused. And I was not necessarily trying as hard. I was trying hard out on court, but I wasn't trying as hard to introduce 100 million things. And it's funny, because I'm sure whenever I look back at the footage, I'll probably be able to see in my swinging, both in my serve, on my ground strokes. Yes, the first few volleys were a little messy, but you know, I'll give you another example from the practice. I'm almost sure I got this on camera. I came up to the net and there was an attempt at a passing shot and I hit a backhand volley and my playing partner tried to lob me over the backhand side. Now look, anybody who has played tennis knows that one of the most difficult shots in the game is the backhand overhead. You know the way most times you see people hitting the overhead with their open forehand, you could say, you know, with the open face. So the ball's being hit over their head and they have an open face and they're coming over it like this. Well, whenever it goes over the backhand side, you actually have your back to the opponent and you have to do this flicking motion. You have to flick your wrist with your back to your opponent, basically. In other words, your stance, you're not open. You're not following the ball forward with momentum. You're moving backwards with your back to your opponent, using the back of your racket to try and flick it back onto court. I had one of those shots today. You would have seen it. Hopefully you saw it from the footage. And if you haven't seen it, I'm almost sure I had this on camera. Anyway, if it was on camera, you'll know exactly what I was talking about. And to be able to make that shot, you know, it's a difficult shot, folks. And if your head is full of, I need to do this, and oh well, whenever I come up to the net and I have to, you know, get this position right, I have to hold that racket this way, and oh gosh, blah blah, you know, if your mind is so full of other things, if you're distracted about what you're going to be doing on your serve next, you just, making shots like this becomes a notch or two more difficult. These shots are already difficult, but whenever that shot actually cropped up, I was able to put it away effortlessly. Wasn't even thinking, folks. Oh, ball's up over the backhand side. Oh, backhand smash. Done. I guarantee you, the last time I was practicing, I probably would not have been able to, as convincingly, hit that shot. In fact, on the last practice, I did have that shot, but I didn't hit it with the same feel, with the same disregard for whether I score a winning point or whether I miss. You know, that's the thing, folks. Today was not about making every single shot. I knew that I would make mistakes today because I'm playing aggressively. But there's a freedom. I didn't feel as free during the last hit. I felt like my own mind was imprisoning me a little. This week I felt free, and so whenever it came to actually hitting difficult shots, like the backhand overhead smash, I didn't even think about it. Oh yeah, boom, point one, clean winner. Last week, there's a little more hesitancy. So you know, this brings up an interesting lesson, folks. Certainly for me anyway. You know, when you're going out to try and get better at something, like me, I'm trying to get better at my serve, and broadly speaking, I'm trying to make my tennis game better. You know, it's easy to fall into that trap that I fell into last week. Complicating things, trying to rush the learning process, trying to speed it up, not being willing, you know, falling into the trap of not being willing to fully engage with the process. The process is going to be long, it's going to be slow, it's going to be frustrating at times. But you know, if you're in this for the long haul, you know, if you're in this for a long journey, if you're willing to strap in and enjoy the journey, then you shouldn't be in a rush. And so there should be no reason why I'm trying to implement 10 different things every practice. No, how about we implement one thing? And that's what today was all about. Stripping it back, simplifying things, and playing with more freedom. Now for me, the way in which I was going to be able to play with more freedom was bringing more aggression. Because whenever I sit on the baseline and I attack the ball and hit it on the rise, I need to be swinging freely. That's the reason why I took this mentality out onto court today. Because folks, let me tell you, for those of you who are familiar with tennis, most people don't like to play on the baseline. And there's a very simple reason why. When you play on the baseline, as opposed to playing further back behind the baseline, you have less time. You have to hit a lot of half volleys. You take time away from your opponent, that is true, but you also take time away from yourself. So you know, most people don't want to play on top of the baseline. Most people want to take 2 or 3 steps back behind the baseline to give themselves more time, so that they can prepare their swing. Most people don't want to have to hit half volleys. But when you do take this approach, it forces you, it literally forces you to swing freely. Because folks, you can't play on the baseline tight and tense. You know, you can take a few steps back and roll the ball in, play a few moon balls, and you know, just spin the ball in when you're 2 or 3 yards behind the baseline. Yeah, of course you can do that. You can't do that on the baseline. When you play on the baseline and you have to take the ball early, you have to be swinging freely. You have to be loose. You have to have the mindset of aggression and attacking the ball. Otherwise, you are going to miss everything. You're going to shank balls off the frame. You're going to hit balls into the net. Your footwork's going to be all over the place. You know, you can't be tense. You can't be tight. You have to be loose. And you have to be willing to accept that mistakes are going to happen. You're going to miss volleys. You're going to miss approach shots. You're going to miss some shots on the baseline, especially if your opponent plays deep. But that's fine. I wanted that today because I wanted to have this sole focus. I didn't want to be too needy to implement 4 or 5 different things at once. I just wanted for this practice. Now look, I'm not going to do this every practice, but for this practice, given what happened the last time, I just wanted to swing loosely, but with aggression, with the sole focus, the sole purpose of being aggressive. You should try it, folks. If you're ever out on court sometime, you should try it. You know, because people get very intimidated playing on top of the baseline. People get scared. Why? Why do they get scared? Because they're going to make mistakes. Fuck the mistakes. You know, you need to try it. You need to see what it feels like to have the ball be on your toes early. And you need to see what it feels like to have to adjust your swing. And then it teaches you, this is for me anyway, I can only speak from personal experience. It teaches me, when I play on the baseline, play aggressively, take the ball early, take it on the rise, get up to the net, try to punch the volley. When I attack the serve, when I attack the ball toss, when I attack the return, really laying into it. When I do these things, this instantly makes me swing more loosely. I know I have to swing loosely. I know I cannot afford to have tension, or I can't afford to be tentative in my swinging when I'm playing on the baseline. Can't afford to do it. Otherwise, there are going to be no rallies. I'm just going to make so many unforced errors. So this is a nice little trick that I've found. When everything in the world of tennis seems like it's getting too complicated. Oh, you know, the technicalities of the game, the technicalities of the serve. Let's strip it back. Strip it back and have a sole focus out on court. Plonk on the baseline. Thou shalt not be moved. That was my approach today. I refuse to be budged off the baseline. And if that's my mindset, if that's what I'm thinking going out onto court, well then, in order for me to execute, in order for me to actually make this practice worthwhile for my playing partner, I need to swing loosely. I can't afford to be tense. I need to play with aggression. I need to commit to each swing. Because when you play on top of the baseline, you have to commit to the swing. You can't not do this. You cannot simply roll the ball in on the baseline. You have to go after it. You have to commit to your swing. You have to be loose. That's what I did today. Boy, did it feel good. It felt really good. From a psychological standpoint, I come off the court today feeling great. How did the serve look? Not sure. How did the serve feel? Much better. Much better. It felt much better. Was my ball toss arm super vertical? Probably not. We'll deal with that later. I'm in this for the long haul, folks. Bit by bit, we're going to inch our way up the tennis serve learning curve. We're going to inch our way bit by bit up the tennis learning curve in general. We're in no rush. I haven't got an ATP 1000 event to play in Indian Wales next week. It's the clay court season, actually. I haven't got to, or no, it's coming up to the grass court season. I'm not trying to get ready for Wimbledon, folks. I'm in no rush. And I want to do things properly. I want to be coming off court having enjoyed the practice and feeling like I actually accomplished my goal. My goal today was to play on the baseline, thou shalt not be moved, play with aggression, swing loosely, swing through the ball, commit to each swing, whether it's on the serve, the return, on the baseline, approach shots, volleys even. And if I get a little bit carried away, okay, big deal. If I miss a few volleys, if I miss a few approach shots, no big deal. Recalibrate. That's what I did throughout the practice. The first few volleys were ugly and I missed them. All right, no big deal. Recalibrate. Adjust in real time. No problem. But I would much rather go out swinging for the fences, being aggressive, committing to my strokes and missing, than being tentative and tense and cautious and stepping back behind the baseline, fucking 10 yards, swinging from the back fence, rolling it in, hitting moon balls. Don't want to do that. Fuck that. So look, a really good hit, folks. I really enjoyed this one. I don't know when the next Bandido swings is going to be. As I said in our introduction, the musicians are in Ormo Park. They've got Belsonic or whatever the fuck it is they're doing. So the Ozone in Ormo Park, the tennis complex that I play in, is probably going to be closed for much of the month of June. So I don't know, this could be the last episode that I do for a while. Let's see. Hopefully not. You know, I'm just remembering something else, actually, from the head. I'll finish on this. I was so keen, and I think I got this. Did I get this on the footage? I think I did. I was so keen, folks. You've probably seen it already then. I was so keen when I was approaching the net that there was one stage where my opponent went to hit a passing shot and he put a bit too much mustard into the shot. A bit too much mustard. He hit it a wee bit too hard. And as he hit the shot, it went flying up over my head, but I was so keen to stick each volley away that I tried to leap up and smash this shot that was going to go long. I tried to leap up and hit it, but it didn't matter. I couldn't reach it. 5'7", folks. I'm a minion. I'm not that tall. So I tried to do it, but it epitomized my approach today. You know, I hit this approach shot. My opponent tries to hit a passing shot. The passing shot it looks like it's clearly going to go long, but I didn't care. I was up for trying to hit it anyway. That was my approach today. It didn't matter whether the ball looked like it was going long, I was hitting it. There was nothing that was going to stop me hitting a volley today, hitting a ground stroke, whatever it was. I was hitting everything today. And that just sort of epitomized my approach today. I go to the net, my opponent hits a passing shot, it's clearly going long, but I leap up and try to hit it anyway. All 5'7" of me tries to leap up and hit it anyway. But it's funny, the limitation of my height stopped me from sticking the ball away. So anyway, folks, no matter what it is you're doing in life, attack it. It feels good to really attack something with aggression. Really go after it. Really commit. And don't be afraid to make some mistakes. Nobody's going to chop my head off if I hit a few ground strokes long, or if I make a few double faults, or if I miss a few volleys. My head is going to stay on my shoulders. No problem. I don't have anything to worry about there. What is the drawback of me being aggressive? Of me attacking the ball? Of me having this sole focus to just go after everything? And it actually turned out, as is often the case, even though I was playing so aggressively, did I make that many mistakes? 2 double faults, that's it. 2 aces. How many mistakes did I make from the back of the court? Not that many. Isn't that funny, folks? You know, don't be afraid. This is a broad lesson that we can learn for life, folks. Do not be afraid to attack life. Don't stand 10 yards behind the baseline, folks, rolling the ball in with big heavy topspin, moon balls. Don't play it safe. Every now and again, folks, you need to attack life. You need to really go after something that you want. I want to get this tennis serve right. I want to get my tennis game better. And today, I decided that I was going to go after that ball. I was going to attack that practice today. And for 45 minutes, that is all I did. And I come away from the practice feeling the most euphoric I have felt to date. Boy, did that feel good. Independent of how many balls landed in or out. It felt good. It felt good to loosen the shackles, commit, and attack something that you really want to get better at. There's your lesson, folks. Let me know down in the comments, what did you think? Could you see the Bandido's aggression? Let me know what you think down there. All of your insights will be valued, of course. I'll take a sneaky peek at any comments when they appear down there. Let me know what you thought. Folks, that is everything from me this afternoon. Again, I'm on my way home. I need to eat some food. I'm a little bit hungry, actually. You know, it takes a lot of mental energy playing on the baseline, folks. You know, having to hit so many half volleys, to be so aggressive, it takes up extra calories. The Bandido needs some food. I'm heading home. I'm going to get some food. You enjoy the rest of your day, folks. If you're not already attacking your day, start attacking it right now. With all of that said, it is over and out this afternoon from the Bandido.